from materializing, obeying your trading strategy, avoiding decisions based on greed or fear, and never looking back or stopping once your trade has commenced. All right. So we will get down to business. If everybody can hear me okay, drop me one in the chat and we will get this thing underway. Perfect. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. All right. So, um, over to trading economics. We got euro inflation falls below the ECB target. That inflation number has been coming down consistently in the Eurozone. And we got an inflation that has now hit 1.9 in May, down from 2.2 in April and below the expected 2.0 from the forecast, right? Also marks the first time, the first drop below the ECB's target since September 2024, boosting expectations of a 25 basis point rate cut later this week. Notably, services inflation dropped sharply to its lowest levels since March 2022. Lots of things happening in the Eurozone, right? They got some monetary support from the central bank around the area, but inflation is coming down at the moment. Now, there are some things that could potentially change that when it comes to tariffs and such. We'll see how that actually falls. However, um, we got, not however, you have the potential for retaliatory tariffs coming from the Eurozone. So that's something to keep our eyes on as things continue to evolve in this tariff conversation um, with the current U.S. administration. Okay. Um, so we'll watch that and see what comes of it. All right. So that's the inflation piece. We have European stocks. Stocks 50 paired losses to trade at 53.10 on Tuesday, still marking its lowest levels since May 8th, but recovered from a sharp 1% drop earlier in the session after weaker than expected inflation data reinforced expectations for a 25 basis point cut from the ECB later this week. Meanwhile, global growth concerns weighed on sentiment after the OECD cut its outlook, projecting world GDP. So this, um, projecting the world GDP to slow from 3.3 in 2024 to 2.9 in both 2025 and 2026. That is interesting there. Um, Give me 1 second. Excuse me. Um, citing escalated trade tensions, right? And that could um, cause some issues around the globe when it comes to GDP. Um, the OECD is the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. That's an organization. It's an international organization of 38 member countries established to promote policies that improve the economic and social well-being of the people around the world. It was founded in 1961. Um, So that's what the OECD is, just for our notes. Um, but citing escalating trade tensions, adding to the market jitters, political instability in the Netherlands deepens as the government collapse over immigration policy disagreements. That's interesting. In corporate news, healthcare, uh, real, est- healthcare real estate firms, Adefica, Adefica and Confinimo announced a merger, forming the largest healthcare property company in Europe. Huh. Meanwhile, a British American Tobacco said it expects a return to revenue and profit growth in its U.S. operations this year and raises annual sales target to 1 to 2%. All right. So that's what's happening across the Eurozone. We had China manufacturing unexpectedly sinks. Um, General manufacturing PMI unexpectedly declined to 48.3 in May, down from April's 50.4, and missing the forecast of 50.6. Marked the first contraction in the sector in 8 months. The latest reading also represents the steepest decline since September 2022, as output shrank for the first time in 19 months, and at the fastest, I said that already, and at the fastest pace since 2022. Uh, while new orders contracted at the sharpest rate since 2022. At the same time, foreign sales fell to the lowest levels since July 2023 amid ongoing uncertainty uh, in the external trade environment. Employment continues to decline, purchasing activity weakened, and supplier lead times lengthen marginally. On the price front, input costs fell for the third consecutive month, driven by lower energy and raw materials prices. Output prices also declined, marking a sixth straight monthly drop amid heightened competition. Finally, business sentiment strengthened, supported by hopes of improvement in the trade conditions. So orders slowed down. All of that to sum it up. All right. Manufacturing orders slowed down across the board at sharp levels. Um, let's look more at this OECD. The world economy is expected to slow this year, with growth expected at 2.9 for both 2025 and 2026, down from a 3.3% last year, according to the OECD. The group attributed the weaker outlook to rise in global uncertainty, primarily driven by a shift in U.S. trade policies under President Trump. The report warns that more trade barriers could further damage growth, reducing incomes and slow job creation. The U.S. is forecast to grow just 1.6% this year, down from 3.3 in 2024 due to tariffs, reducing immigration and government job cuts. Mexico and Canada are also expected to see slower growth due to their close trade ties with the U.S. Meanwhile, the OECD said that higher trade costs, especially in countries raising tariffs, will also push up inflation. Although their impact will be offset primarily by weaker commodity prices. So you got commodity prices dropping, inflation going up. So it's saying it could balance it a little bit. While inflation is easing in many areas, service prices remain stubbornly high, and rising government spending, especially in defense, must be carefully managed. I'm going to look into this organization more and dig more into this, but defense spending is a concern, high government spending overall is a concern. So we knew that. But that's what's happening across the world there. Um, over to the calendar. You had Governor Ray to speak yesterday or early this morning, sorry. Tariff measures have complicated Japan's outlook. Economic price environment becomes more complex, right? And oops, didn't want to do that. They'll adjust the degree of easing if economic outlook is met, right? So they're watching the data to see how things go. Um, to see how things go, and they'll make adjustments as their data comes into alignment. Um, he expects wages and prices to gradually rise and withstand the downward pressure from tariffs. Also, say the labor market remains tight, so companies are to retain positive wage settings um, as a whole, right? So wages will stay um, in a positive territory and increasing, but they have concerns. Tariffs have complicated the situation, right? But here we are to the calendar. Um, Yesterday, ISM manufacturing PMI came in below expectation, right? And manufacturing prices came in just below the expectation there. Um, excuse me, I did get a chance to take a look at what Fed Chair Powell had to say or the Aussie meeting minutes. But for today, we got Swiss CPI came in at the expectation, 0.1. We had um, that CPI for the flash estimates for the Eurozone. Later on today, we got Joe's job openings, GDP for the Aussie, and we got a few central bank speakers speaking between 1 and 4. Um, Tomorrow, ADP non-farm employment change, Bank of Canada rate statement, overnight rates, ISM services PMI for the dollar, Bank of Canada press conference, right? So we'll see what's happening with the Bank of Canada and see where things go. Then we have on Thursday a rate statement for the Eurozone, all right? Unemployment claims for the dollar, a press conference for the euro at 8:45. Ivy PMI out of Canada at 10 o'clock. Central bank speakers throughout the day. Then on Friday, we got our regular run of the mill employment change, unemployment rate, average hourly earnings, non-farm payroll, unemployment rate for the dollar. And then President Lagarde speaks on Saturday. So pretty busy week on the second half with the rate statements out of Canada and the Eurozone, and then we got a non-farm payroll. Any questions from a fundamental perspective? I know that was a lot.
Yep, I had put it in before we started. I didn't know if you get a chance to see the article, but I didn't understand section 899, if that can be explained.
Section 899. Where you put that in community?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Let me pull that up. While I'm pulling that up, Benny, good morning, bro.
Ryan, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Man, doing all right. Doing all right this morning. Um, so I posted a article with that OECD. That's kind of like top article on multiple sources this morning. Bloomberg, CNBC, you know, uh, everybody's talking about it. So just to continue, negative impact of these tariffs.
Yeah,
Yeah. So when I see it in multiple outlets reporting on it, you know, got to pay attention to it. Got to pay
definitely something to
attention
pay
to it.
attention to.
Yeah, and so because that means your major market participants are paying attention to that too. So therefore, it's going to you know, impact the markets, right?
Yeah,
And so yeah, that and then just continuing to follow what's going on with this tax bill. A
talk to
lot
us
of
about developments there.
oh man, just continue strong arming, right? He's strong arming, Republicans to embrace the bill, like to push this thing through. That's what's going on. So all the jockeying back and forth. Uh, but yeah, it's a like I said, I don't think it's gonna be watered down too much. I think it's gonna pass, and we're gonna see. We'll see what's gonna happen from there. But when you talk about these tariffs on top of the bill, it's a mess, man. I think I think it's a big, beautiful mess. That's what I think it is. So, I mean, we see what's going on. I mean, this tariff thing has been going on for quite some time now, and you see that. You're still getting major articles on it. Like it's not good. So I don't think any of it's good over over the long term. Over
Yeah.
the long term. So,
Do
uh,
you do you see them? Because I was listening to Bloomberg yesterday, and they were talking about the desire to get this done by 4th of July.
mm, mm,
Do you see that as a realistic possibility?
I I do just because nobody on that Republican side is. I don't think anybody really has the backbone to stand up. To stand up to them.
Yeah,
You know, I think it's a possibility.
gotcha.
I think it's a possibility. So I guess let's just see what happens. Trade accordingly. But
Hey,
there
absolutely.
are definitely deep concerns over the longer term impact. But like I said, in the shorter term, with the tax bill passing, you probably see a rally. You're going to see a rally in the market. You know,
Yeah, well, certainly, certainly, man.
yeah, and he still has. As much as you see the media spin, like I've been watching a lot lately, where you've got different news sources going and interviewing and sticking a microphone in the face of his supporters, asking them, what they think now, and a lot of them are still like giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Delusional.
Yeah, giving them the
My
giving them
bad.
the benefit of the doubt. Like one guy was losing his job as a result of the terror situation. It still was like, oh, it's hers in the short term, but the future generations is going to be better for them. I'm like, all right, let me let me go ahead and change the channel now. This is crazy,
I'm gonna go ahead and
but
move some more money to China.
right, right. So he still has a ton of support out there. So I think it's definitely gonna pass. Yep,
Yeah, yeah. My bad. I couldn't get to my mute button.
that's okay.
Um, yeah, man. I uh I agree. I do think because previously I was here in August, but I do think I do think it will. I
Mhm.
definitely think it will. And we shall see, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
Um, back to Joy's question about Section 899. Um, she posted a video where they were discussing the tax code, Section 861, 881, and 899. U.S. tax provisions that impact foreign corporations and cross-border capital flows. Um, Sections haven't been widely discussed in public markets, but pose significant risks if implemented and enforced more aggressively under the Trump administration. Um, so they're not really talking about it. Um, they're more focused on tariffs, right? Investors are focused on tariffs and visible trade negotiations, but the real financial disruption may come from behind the scenes, with the tax and capital control measures, in these three sections. Um, and what they would do is these sections would raise taxes on foreign entities doing business in the United States or investing in U.S. assets, right? So taxes would increase on those. Um, this could discourage foreign capital inflows to the United States, especially from Europe and Asia, which have been large buyers of U.S. stocks and bonds, right? I believe there was just a shift from Japan to another country as the largest debt holder for the U.S. But you have a lot of money coming out of the Eurozone and out of the Asia Pacific area, um, buying buying debt, U.S. debt. So um, and stocks. So that could be a major impact if pressure is put on those foreign investors from a tax perspective. Um, Now, the other side of it is most market participants believe that the policy won't be enacted, or at least not fully. So it's not reflecting in prices currently. So it's not being priced into the market right now. Um, if the measures are enforced, what we could see is foreign investors pulling back from long-term U.S. holdings, right? Due to depreciation of the dollar, rising yields, which means lower bond prices, and increase in that tax friction, right? And then the kind of the the dilemma for Trump um, is he wants to attract long-term investments into the United States, but these tax policies could undermine that goal by repelling those global investors if they're going to face a higher tax, right? Um, and then just a little deeper when it comes to the impact on specific areas. So U.S. equities, um, we could see capital flight, a weaker corporate earnings, right? Foreign subsidiaries taxed at a higher rate, reducing the global investor appetite. For U.S. bonds, we could see reduced demand for treasuries, equaling higher rates needed to attract more buyers, right? So we could see the yields increase on bonds to try to attract more buyers there. Um, we could see foreign investors dump the dollar. So we'll see the DXY decrease even further. So the dump US dollar assets due to tax inefficiencies and uncertainty. And then in foreign markets, you could see disruption in US flows um, flow over to global equities and bond markets, right? We could see it flow over into other areas. So just some things there from that. So Joe, I hope that helps just from a tax perspective. There's going to be increased tax on those foreign investors and investments. So um, Joy posted a link in the community to this video to a video discussing that on Bloomberg. So something to keep our eyes on in the background for sure. And we'll see how that moves through. Um, See how that moves through the market and how it impacts. All right. Questions from a fundamental perspective. Nope. All right. Let's take a look at some charts. Let's take a look here. DXY sitting at some lows, right? So we talked about it pushing back down. We got a 618 retracement on the 4-hour time frame here. We got a 618 retracement making its way back down. We do have stochastic in the buy zone. And we're watching these support levels to see where price goes. But all signs are pointing to dollar weakness at the moment, right? Um, so we'll continue to monitor the dollar as it continues its trek to the downside here. Okay. A 50% retracement on the daily. I don't know anything that stops dollar weakness right now. Okay. Um, so we'll continue to monitor and see how things go. But we're looking at dollar continuing to move to the downside. We could get a retracement, which we want to see on some of those 80-20s that we have out there. Um, but we'll see how things go. I definitely would love to see it for that reason. Um, but outside of that, just from a retracement perspective. So we'll watch to see what fundamentals we get to line us up for that retracement on the dollar. Okay. So that's where we are on the DXY. um, the UJ, we're settling in here, right? And this is on the 4. I'll come back to the daily. I got fibs going both ways on this, but um, let me take that out. Not able to break out to the downside just yet. Excuse me. Trying to make that move to the downside after a 618 retracement, but not able to quite break out to the downside yet. Okay. We'll see if we get a double bottom here, but we do have a stochastic higher in the zone. Okay. So the data will tell us this week, right? We got data, we got quite a few central bank speakers. Um, Looking for that to give us the insight on the direction of the market, at least in the shorter term, as the tariffs continues to bounce back and forth. So hopefully that gives us a breakout to the downside, that continuation, or that move back long. Okay. Um, so now back to that 4. That's where we are right now. Is this fib coming to the downside? Boom. Okay. So we had the 80-20 beautiful through 2 TPs. Didn't quite get to that 786 retracement, so we got a 618 retracement there. Matching extension of 141.203. We got to break this 142.246 level first. Okay, so we'll watch that development there. Comes down to the dollar, man, and what happens with the dollar. Bank of Japan is uncertain. Um, so that kind of removes that, and it's all about where the dollar goes. Okay, so coming down to the one, similar story here. Had that 80-20 beautiful move to the upside, took that A out. If we run a fib from the low, yep, that took that out there. So fibs going in both directions, consolidation. B boundary push, might get a little crown action here. So we might see this retracement here on the 1-hour time frame on this UJ. Beautiful crown setup. Boom. Right. So we could be off on the move to the upside there on the dollar yen. Then we'll look for high prices and see where the dollar is at that point. Questions on the dollar yen? Nope. All right. Cool deal. Um, Let me go back to trend economics and look at oil. We've got some mixed information here. WTI crude futures rose to around 63.1 per barrel on Tuesday, extending gains for a second straight session as ongoing geopolitical tensions fuel concerns over tighter global supply. On Monday, Russia and Ukraine held their second round of direct peace talks following a sharp escalation in hostilities the previous day, but the discussions yielded no significant progress in resolving the 3-year-long conflict. Additionally, an Iranian diplomat said on Monday that Iran was poised to reject U.S. proposal to end a decade-long nuclear dispute. Ooh, all right. Um, Arguing that it fails to meet Tehran's interest and or ease Washington's stance on uranium enrichment. Further intensifying supply concerns, a wildfire in Alberta, Canada, has forced a temporary shutdown of some oil and gas production. Got it. Meanwhile, OPEC Plus kept output increases in July at the same levels as the previous 2 months, alleviating fears of a larger supply boost. Right? So they didn't increase the supply. Um, so they kept that at the same levels. So that removes the oversupply in the market concern, right? That was pressing price down. And we have these geopolitical concerns, right? Russia and Ukraine not making any progress, which isn't completely surprising to me. But then you had Iran um, re set to reject the US's proposal, and it doesn't look like they've made any real progress there either. Just a lot of talking that has moved the market back and forth. Um, so oil to the upside as of right now is what all of this says to me, along with wildfires in Canada, which is unfortunate there. Right. So that says oil to the upside to me. So we come to the chart, and this is what we have. This is a daily time frame stochastic coming out of that buy zone. You see a nice bullish candle there. Can we break above 63.64? All right. Or yeah, in that range. Yeah, 63.64. Okay. What you also have is actually, no, you don't. It's not a head and shoulders pattern there. You got a double bottom here and then a push. So can we get that move and take out that high and continue moving to the upside? That is the question there on oil. Can we continue pushing? And from a fundamental perspective, it kind of lines up for oil to continue moving to the upside, right? So then I'll be looking for, can we break this cloud, right? As we break that resistance level, break of the cloud, pullback, retest, and continuation. Okay. So we'll come down to the 4, and this is where we are. We just got to that 618 retracement level here with that wick, and then you see price rise. So match an extension level on the 467.19. So we got a retracement happening now, which look at on the 1 hour time frame. All right, stochastic coming back down. Once we get into that buy zone, good morning, Deb. We'll look to see price turn over and push to the upside. Nice bullish break of the cloud there. We're above the cloud, came back below, kind of consolidated a bit. Breakout to the upside. We're bullish ahead on the cloud. So look for a pullback and a continuation to the upside on oil on the 4. Okay. We'll come down to the 1, and that's what you got. Similar to that 4, 618 retracement, breakout to the upside. Okay. Breakout to the upside. And that pullback happened. Didn't quite get as deep as originally thought, but we got to that 618 level and we took off. Okay. So now we're looking for pullbacks and continuation. So we can come down to our lower time frames. And we can look at, all right, that's our larger fib there, or we can run a fib off the C, and that sets us up right there, right? That pullback gave us a 786 retracement. So 127 extension is the matching level there, and that breaks that resistance level for us. So all signs right now are looking long, right? You got an evening star pattern here. You got a lot of small points of confluence there, right? Decision, indecision, decision, textbook. So we'll look for that to continue moving to the upside. On oil, that's on a 30-minute. Questions there? Nope. Nope.
I'm
All right.
sorry.
Cool beans.
I couldn't get to the function.
Okay.
I forgot. I had walked away earlier, but was they changing the production or was they keeping it the same?
No, they kept it the same.
Okay.
They kept it the same as the previous months. All right. Kept output increase in July at the same levels as the previous 2 months. All right. So that moves that concern of the oversupply. Yep. Yep. So now it's just kind of focus on those geopolitical issues and what happens there. Cool. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. S&P 500. Moving to the upside, we're in this consolidation space here, right? That move down, strong move back to the upside, broke the cloud, we're bullish, we're moving long. We got some back and forth happening here. Um, so what I'm watching on this move to the upside is a 61.32 level. We got a shallow retracement here. Do we push into this 118 127 zone, retest those highs, and then get a deeper retracement here? So we'll see. Pushing to the upside right now. So we come down to the 4, and we have a similar look. 118 127 zone sitting in the same area on the 4, right? So we're consolidating here at the B boundary. Do we push into that 118 127 zone and then get a reversal? Okay. So watching that all around, right? And could this push us into the weekend with this potential scenario? To the 1, similar story. Consolidation, 118 and 127 zone right there in the zone. Okay. So I'm watching that to see if that develops or do we just run depending on the data, right? So watching the data, how that comes out and kind of what trajectory we get from there. Okay. So that's the SP 500. Any questions here?
Nope.
Cool deal. So that's the S&P, NASDAQ. Similar story. Beautiful reversal. Moving long at those highs, 22, 269. We got that 118, 127 zone. Got a stochastic pushing back up into that sell zone. So watching there, same story as the S&P, right? What happens when we get to these levels? Do we break it or do we get our 80-20 and reverse out? Okay. That if we get that, that can set us up for a crown pattern and that larger move to the upside once that tax bill is released. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. Down on the 4, we're sitting in that 118, 127 zone right now. Right. So you got an 80-20 right now, but that 22, 269 level is just above. Okay. So I removed this look because we got that push. And this is what we're looking at here. Okay. So just consolidating, trying to figure it out. Multiple things happening. Multiple things happening across the globe impacting this. And we'll see overall how market participants take the data. Down on the one.
Hey, Ryan,
Yes, ma'am.
I just thought about this. So yesterday when I was going through Darwin, I really didn't realize, and I guess it's the reason why I haven't touched like NASDAQ and stuff like that, that they broke in three stock divisions. So like somebody just said something about alphabet. What would be considered like the alphabet stock?
GOOG. That's Google.
Okay, I got
Yeah,
you.
I'll take a look at that one because that one will be. Yeah, I saw some interesting things there. I'll take a look at that one next. But GOOG is the symbol for alphabet.
Okay, I will put what I was trying to ask because I'm sorry for interrupting. I'll put it
Okay.
in the community because when I was looking at Darwin, it put it in like a different perspective. I guess each one is like a different like technology. I believe Benny explained it before, but I guess me seeing it is different. But I put an article in the community about that too.
Just about the sectors overall
No, about the
about Google.
about Google. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I saw that article as well. Yeah, that'll definitely be interesting. Definitely be interesting to see how that lawsuit comes out. Um, Joy is talking about Joy is talking about Alphabet stock and how it could potentially fall as much as 25% if the judge orders Google Chrome divestiture. Basically saying that they have a, have a monopoly in the search market. Is what if I understand the situation correctly? Um, that's what it's saying. Yeah, so that could definitely be an interesting twist to the Google story, if that occurs. That's the article that Joy's referring to there. Um, and this would be considered a kind of a black swan event, if that occurs, and we could see some major sell-off in the Google stock, if that is ordered. But S&P 500, right? We're sitting in that 118 and 127 zone. I'm sorry, NASDAQ sitting in that 118 and 127 zone now. Okay, and we'll see how price moves throughout the week if we get a push up to retest these previous highs, right? And stay below. If we stay below, or do we break above, retest, and continue to the upside? Okay, so keep my eyes close on
Right. I
these.
have morning. I have
Morning.
looking at Nasdaq. If you run a fib from that low right there,
This
um,
low here,
no, right
this
where
low
the
here.
yeah, I'm looking at it to go up to. Let's see. Yeah, to push up a little bit more, but more are up to that. So if you move up to that low, just at the peak, yeah, see the low right there, that
What,
just below that.
right here?
No, go back to the top where price break. You see the support, right? It broke the support to that candle.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'm looking for it to go back around that zone and then drop, I think, because on my chart, where is it? And then drop because I think when I went to, what was I looking at? I think it was a 4 hour. Around that zone is 61.8. So
Gotcha. Yeah, let's
on the
see.
downside, yeah.
Let's
But I'm
see.
looking at it too.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep our eyes on basically that range there, right? Um,
Mhm.
Definitely got some confluence. We got the 118, 127 zone that we're sitting in. That'd be a retest of that area. And then just above that, from a higher time frame perspective, you got that daily 80/20 also just above. So no, let's definitely watch that range.
Yeah, because it was a nice 80/20 yesterday. Pushed up to the 382. on the one
Yeah,
hour.
off this move here off the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. Boom, right? Reversal. Yeah, so let's watch and see, right? How deep do we move? And then what occurs then, right? Fundamentally, what do we get? Do we get impacts that drive the market down, or do we get bullish signals and cause the market to rally, right? So this is the back and forth you get with the uncertainty that comes across everywhere. When we come down to the lower time frames and look at some of those tighter fibs a little bit closer, right? 30-minute, you got that 618 retracement headed to the matching extension there, which is what Dinette is looking at. Price just above at that 21,700 area, right? Uh, come down to the one, and Reese is breaking down some in between candles, finding 80/20s on the 1 minute time frame. Boom, looking for a retracement. And then do we get that continuation move to the upside? All right. But it's stochastic in the buy zone on the 1 minute. So price moving to the downside, we'll watch that retracement and then potentially get back long there. All right. Questions on the NASDAQ? Right. Get super low. All right. George talking about Google. So let's look at this Google stock real quick. Um, we come out to the monthly, pull these fibs out real quick because there's just a bunch of back and forth here. Um, this is where we are on the monthly time frame from a fib perspective. I'll drop my support resistance in here. Don't have a support level just yet there. We got support here. We have another level here. Um, and there. All right, so that's our monthly support. Come down to the weekly. I'm going to leave these fibs on just so we can see the adjustments as we go, right? But we got a nice deep retracement here, 786 retracement, and we're starting to move back to the upside. See, the cloud is starting to press sideways there. So we'll keep our eyes on that potential consolidation. On the weekly, we have a stochastic in the sell zone. Okay. And we'll just look at the changes overall. Monthly, pressing down into that buy zone. So we got a mismatch from a long-term perspective, right? Weekly, we're in the sell zone. So support and resistance on the weekly. Support level there. Um, and that's it, right? We got our monthly levels in. So now we'll come down to the daily and we'll look at it again, right? So from a daily time frame, those fibs really got taken out. Okay. It got really choppy in here, right? And those fibs got taken out. So if you run it off the low there, this is where you stand from a daily time frame perspective in the Fibonacci sequence. Okay. Got a stochastic in the sell zone. I want us to look at this. Stochastic in the sell zone, we have daily resistance here. We got a swing high to form. Still bullish on the cloud, right? See if we get some bouncing around. We also got a shallow retracement here. Okay. Um, so we'll see how this case continues to move along with Google, but this is where we're sitting right now from a daily time frame perspective. Two scenarios I potentially see, right? One, we break that high, that B boundary high, and we move into this 118 and 127 zone, and that could set us up for a retracement. Okay. Second thing I see from a from a broader range, crown pattern. We took out the low, right? If we push into that 118 and 127 zone, that gives us almost a perfect right tip. That could set us up for that move down that that lawsuit is talking about, right? So crown pattern is a potential. And then the third option is price rallies and continues moving to the upside. But you see clearly that we're in some kind of consolidation, right? Top, bottom, not able to break out to fully get to the D extension. We came back down, not able to take out the A, and we move back up, right? So we're clearly in a zone of consolidation of equilibrium. So now what happens fundamentally that drives price in one direction or the other? Okay. Um, so if we do get that crown pattern, this fib here would apply, right? We're sitting at a 50% retracement right now with price. Do we push into that 618 retracement level? We'll see. Either way, matching extension is 101, right? So are we setting up for a move on Google back down to the $100 price range? It could be a large move. So we'll see. We'll watch. So as we come down to the 4, I'm gonna pull that out for now. We know that's there and we can see it on the chart without that image there. Okay. Um, but on the 4, right, the fibs also bounce back and forth. So we run our fib off this low here, and that's that similar look as on that daily. We were sitting at a shallow retracement level. Do we push into that 118, 127 zone, setting us up for an 80-20 and a move back down? It does, Reese. It does. Any time frame you get those 80-20s, man. On the 4, price is moving down into that buy zone, which could set us up for that next push to the upside in the short term. Right? So we'll continue to monitor the developments there. And then down on your 1, in a similar space, right? On the 1, that 118 and 127 zone is a little bit lower, right? So we could push through that zone and get to that 80-20 scenario on the 4-hour and on the daily, right? So that's what I'm looking at on Google from a broader perspective. If things line up how that article is discussing, we could be setting up for a crown pattern, be it with a move to the downside now, or one more push to the upside, getting into that 118 and 127 zone, giving us a nice clean right tip, and then moving to the downside. So those are my thoughts on Google and how we could line up with that article and what the article is discussing. Questions?
Yeah, because what cracks me up is every time I turn my computer on, because I have Chrome set as my default. I wonder, would this be the catalyst Microsoft needs because of
Maybe.
Microsoft Edge?
But that product isn't the best.
It ain't.
I hear you. I hear you. But then the question is who buys it, right? If Google has to divest it, who buys it? And does Microsoft buy it to kind of to your point? Do they do away with Microsoft Edge and buy the Google technology and kind of implement it and ingrain it? That'll be an interesting scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got a lot happening, man. Got a lot happening. Market is all over the place. So we shall see. We shall see. Any questions on anything that we covered this morning? No, we didn't get to a lot of charts, but hopefully it was some positive discussion. No? Benny, anything before we wrap it up, bro?
Man, didn't get to a lot of charts, but that's okay, man, because it was good coverage of the fundamentals. The Google conversation is interesting. You know, on
Yeah,
how that's going to end up and how it, they've got the different classes of stock, and just continue to watch how all that is impacted.
right,
You
right,
know,
for sure.
yeah. So no, other than that, man, good sessions. Great discussion. Great discussion. So
Appreciate it. All
yeah,
right, good people. You guys have a phenomenal day. Continue to be patient, right? Watch the fundamentals. Keep an eye on those key zones, and let's move as the market shows us. All right, we're back at it tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the premiere session. Have an awesome day. Peace.